Welcome back, you guys. Thank you so much for checking out The Prepared Mindset. Today, we're going to talk more about night vision and specifically some of the questions and things you need to know and understand when you get into your very first set of night vision. And that could be a lot of things, right? That could be a surplus unit like a used PVS 14 or even a PVS 7 that you got from a company that just happened to, pick up a batch or build a batch with some, Omni 6 or Omni 7 tubes and put those together and sell them at a great price to you guys because that's fantastic. We're Americans and we have access to incredible technology like night vision for our training and capabilities. And I think everybody should pursue that if your budget and your means allow you to do so. That said, I was helping a friend with their brand new night vision setup. They decided after saving for a very long time and setting that money aside that they wanted to make that financial commitment and that investment in themselves on what they wanted and went out and got it. And I'm super happy when people are able to do that for themselves. I know that we all work really, really hard. And we work really hard for our money and we want to spend it on the things that make us happy. And when you're able to make those larger purchases, it's an awesome, awesome accomplishment. But that said, there's a lot of questions still lingering when you buy night vision. How do I set it up? What do I really need? Because there's a whole lot out there, just like in the firearm space when we talk about, optics and barrel lengths and muzzle devices and suppressors and things like that. There's a whole lot of questions out there. What do I need? How do I set it up? What am I doing here? Is there a brand to look at? Is there a brand to avoid? It can be very, very confusing. So we're going to talk a bit about setting up your night vision, your helmet, everything that goes with it, and an in-depth explanation here on how to make that all come together, what you need, what you may not need, why you might need it, and everything, really. That's my goal. So with that, let's dive into this week's discussion. Okay, so the first thing to understand is what we're talking about with night vision. So this is a set of MH1s, and MH1 is the housing name, right? So when you talk about night vision and you hear people say, oh, I have a set of 31s, I got a set of RNVGs, that's the name of the housing, it has nothing to do with the guts of the unit. So the intensifier tubes that are in these units. Now, Gen 3 night vision is pretty exclusively restricted to two companies. It's Elbit Systems and L3. This particular set has some L3 tubes sent over to me by my friends at Custom Night Vision, you guys. Custom is a fantastic company based out of Houston, Texas. And guys, head on over to customnightvision.com. Check out everything they have going on there, from building your own set of binocular night vision like this, helmets, and a whole heck of a lot more. They were kind enough to send these out to me. I've been running these for about a year and they've been absolutely fantastic. So when we're talking about night vision, there's two options, okay? Binoculars, just like a normal set of non-night vision binoculars that you would look through, right? There's also monoculars. So something like a PVS 14 or some of the newer iterations and options on the market, things like a Tonto from Nocturne Industries. It's a single tube device, which actually the MH1 has the ability to split into that, but we're not gonna deep dive that today. It's a single tube device and it covers obviously then one eye. It's not like the PVS 7, if any of you guys have ever seen the movie Executive Decision. Which is a personal favorite of mine from the 90s, Halle Berry, Kurt Russell, really good stuff, where it's two eyes and it converges down to a single lens, single intensifier tube. At the time, the thought was that was a superior way to do night vision because you needed one intensifier tube, but it covered both eyes. There are a lot of issues with that particular style of setup, which is why a lot of people have moved over to a single tube design that covers one eye, like the PVS 14. So once you figure that out, that's the biggest question you have to tackle because typically that's tied to your budget. How much can you afford? Yes, the housings can be expensive, but the intensifier tubes within the housings are where you spend your money. And for something like that, I'm not very well equipped to give you guys that information, but there are a lot of good resources out there. a great option is head on over to customnightvision.com. They have a chat function in the lower right-hand corner of the site. You can talk to one of the team members there. That's what I did, and that's what my friends have done when trying to, get some prescriptive information, if you will, on what you need to buy. So things to think about is, 1 versus 2 tubes, and can you afford it? Along with that, something like these night vision caps from 100 Concepts. Do you need caps? Not necessarily, no. And most units will actually come with a rubber bikini cover similar to what you get with your LPVOs and your hunting scopes and things, and a lot of your red dots too, where it'll protect both the front lens and the back lens of your night vision unit. So why do you need those? To protect your investment. Long story short, just to protect your investment. You're not going to necessarily need them in the field and be flipping them on and off and on and off. But when you're traveling with these devices, if you're, if you don't have something nice to store them in, having that extra bit of protection or protective layer on these, it just makes you feel a little bit better, because even if you go for the quote unquote cheap optics, and by cheap optics, I mean your lenses on the rear and the front here, I think on the low side, those are around $600 for the set of 4. And if $600 is nothing to you, then cool, man, party on. But avoiding things like scratches and it is a good idea, but it also, when you're in a classroom setting, for instance, and somebody may have left their laser on, we, with our naked eyes, can't see the IR spectrum of light. That's why we have night vision. If somebody were to accidentally have left their laser on and it was beaming into your tube and it was hitting your intensifier tube while you guys go out for a break or an hour and a half long lunch or dinner or something like that, that's a very, very bad thing, and it'll leave a big black blemish mark on your tube. And in a lot of instances, that can't be repaired, and in some instances may not be covered by any kind of a warranty either. So as a best use case, I always put caps on my intensifier tubes on my housings. Now these ones, they just flip up here, and they actually have sacrificial lenses that are clear on the front of them, which I like, but there's a bunch of options out there. You don't got to get these. I know there's irises, and Focus Research makes some stuff. There's a bunch of different things out there. So the other thing that I always tell people to look at and just to be aware of is the battery, right? So one of the things that I look for when I'm building out my kit, aside from night vision, is battery usage and consumption. So if I run a weapon light, a laser, an optic, or my night vision, is it all going to use or have the ability to use the same kind of battery? So when you're selecting things like weapon lights, you want your weapon light, your laser, your optics, whatever have you, to whatever degree you're able to share the same batteries, because then that's less batteries you have to carry. For instance, if you've decided that you're going to carry 5 spare batteries on your kit, and you have 5 CR123s, well, these MH1s, they run off of a single CR123. This designate IRV from 3 electron infrared, my laser designator here, that runs off a single CR123. My light here has the ability to run off of CR123s or an 18650. It's a dual fuel light. That's what that means. So while the battery is not a huge consideration or a concern even, it is something to be aware of, so you're not having to carry AA's specifically for your night vision. So maybe you have to carry 2 or 3 of those and then have to carry a bunch of CR123s to take care of everything else. And that's in addition to, any 2032s you might have to carry for something like this, the RMR and LPVO combo. So when we're talking about the batteries, just be aware of that. A lot of housings do have ports on them. There's a couple different kinds, and those ports are used to run a cable. And we'll talk about this more when we get into the helmet, but they're used to run a battery pack on the back of your head. You'll run that cable up and you'll plug it into your night vision device, meaning you don't have to carry an onboard battery because it's in your battery pack. But not every unit is going to have that port. For instance, right now, these MH1s that I have the original battery pack here that do not have a battery port. It's not a big deal. It's not like it's going to die in just a couple hours. I think it's like 8 hours of continuous use or something before a single CR123 would die in this. And for better or for worse, I'm just not training that much continuously with my night vision, and a single CR123 lasts me a month or 2 before it starts to give me any issues, and I just chuck it and put a new one in here. But certainly something to consider. Additionally, with these, when I look at the housings, retention is a consideration. Again, we'll get into that more when we get into the helmet. But something I like to call out is on the bridge here, I have added these little, they're called jump rings. So think about your little keychain rings. These are tiny, tiny ones. And I inserted these into the holes on the rear bridge. Now, this particular company, Lowlight Innovations, they've upgraded the rear bridge to make those holes bigger and that whole bridge stronger. But having something like this is usually just easier to clip into. For whatever reason, many of the housings on the market have very, very tiny holes. So when you're trying to clip in the little hooks that come on your helmet, it can be a real pain. So having something bigger like this that's still going to give you that positive contact is a good idea. Again, we're going to talk about it more in a second when we get into the helmets. So when we talk about the night vision, there's a lot of different housings on the market. I would implore you, go check out customnightvision.com. They have a lot of the popular housings in the market, not all of them, mind you, but they have a lot of them available on the site. You can look up what they weigh, the features they have, so whether they have an onboard IR illuminator, which is just a fancy term for a flashlight that you can only see under nods. Whether they have manual gain, which again, in simplest terms, is how bright or how dim your night vision is when you're looking through it. I've actually had several occasions where I just turn these on and go. So manual gain is not always something that you might need. A lot of people prefer it for comfort and eye fatigue and things like that. Not saying you should or shouldn't have it, but that's what that means when you're looking at it. This does have 2 onboard illuminators and it does have manual gain. I do enjoy this housing a heck of a lot. So when you're considering what to buy, weight's usually a big factor, but also look around, do some research on your own, find out, what the durability is like, but take it with a grain of salt and talk to people who really know. These MH1s had some really, really awesome rumors on the internet for a while, or not really rumors, people were talking about, oh, you can just Hulk rip these apart. And I'm like, well, I'm never going to do that, so I'm not really worried about that. But as a result of some of that, the company did go ahead and go, okay, well, we hear you guys. We'll go ahead and we'll beef up this rear bridge back here, this connecting part, and we'll send it out and you guys can swap it out. They have a great video on their YouTube channel on it, but just something to be aware of. Heavier units typically are built to be a little bit more robust. Anything from like AB night vision is going to be absolutely bomb-proof, but it will be heavier. Some options out there will be lighter because they're made out of plastic-esque materials like polymer. There's a lot of molded options from Nocturne Industries that are fantastic. From a durability standpoint, still very good. Are they going to be as strong necessarily as something maybe from the folks at AB? I don't know. I've not done that side-by-side testing, but just something to think about and be aware of if you're somebody that likes to have that enhanced peace of mind with your housing. Both Nocturne and AB do some outstanding work. If you guys are looking into any of that stuff, and I can vouch personally for the MH1s. Now, if you're running a single tube device like a PVS-14, you have some options. Largely, it's just a dial on the front for your power settings and then your manual gain. It's a little bit less, I'll say, a little bit less convoluted, unless you get into something like a Tonto, which has less features but is far more lightweight. So if you have neck injuries and neck issues, that may be something you want to consider if you're in the market for a single tube device. Now, once we get past what you want to run, you have to figure out how you're going to run it, and that's where your helmet comes in. Okay, so when we talk about how you're going to run your night vision, pretty typically we're talking about a helmet of some variety. Yeah, there's something out there. It's a strap-on apparatus called a skull crusher, and there's a couple variations from a couple different companies. But essentially, what it is they take the same shroud that you have up here on the front that would work with one of these mounts that we'll talk about in a second, and it just removes the helmet piece of it. You basically just like ratchet strap it to your head, for lack of a better explanation there, and that's how you mount your night vision. By all means, can work really well and works great with the PVS-14 where you can just ball it all up and stick it in a cargo pocket or something. Doesn't work as great with the dual tube setup. Does work, but obviously larger unit, more weight, things like that, it's going to cause some more problems. So when you're looking at what kind of system you want to use to mount your night vision, a helmet is pretty much the route that everybody recommends you go versus a skull crusher or something like that. Now, this is a Galvion Cayman. This is a ballistic helmet. This is a lightweight helmet. coming in just over 2 pounds. But this is also a pretty expensive option. If you're looking at ballistic helmets on the market, it's typically for the ballistic protection that they provide, right? So not necessarily for direct hits from rounds, although they are tested to some level of a 3A standard, not actual NIJ rating, but to that standard. And they can be quite expensive on the ballistic side of things. This one I think was north of $1,500, which is a lot when you're already looking at spending several thousand on your night vision here. So you can go with a bump helmet. Something like this Team Wendy bump helmet is a fantastic option. And when people ask me, it's my go-to recommendation because it weighs like 1.5 pounds, which is basically nothing. Team Wendy has some of, if not the most comfortable padding on the market with their BOA retention system. That's going to help ratchet that down to your head. And they're affordable, you know, and I think right now, again, customnightvision.com, you guys, they have these in stock and they even provide you with the discount code in the product description to help you save a few bucks. So sub $400 for this helmet. It's a great price from a company that's honestly established and respected in the market. It's hard to go wrong with a bump helmet, but especially something like a Team Wendy or, you know, OpsCore. I know Galvion makes a Cayman bump helmet as well. What I will say is if you're looking into bump helmets, don't get a cheap bump helmet. You'll have people on the internet that will actually try and convince you a bump is a bump, meaning a $50 airsoft replica or a $100 airsoft replica of one of these versus the real thing is going to be quote unquote just as good. And that's really not the case. The padding, the retention, those things do suffer in quality when you side by side compare them. And especially when this is available for $350 or so, why would you spend $100 on a fake of this when you can spend $350 on the real thing with the real company warranty? So buyer beware with that stuff. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is. Do what you will with that information, but I would just stress, you know, if you're on a budget, a quality bump helmet is a great way to go. Something like the Team Wendy bump or carbon bump from Team Wendy or OpsCore, also really great solutions. So once you have your helmet solution figured out, what is all of the rest of this? Let's start at what I consider to be some of the most important pieces on the helmet, and that starts certainly with your mount up here. Now, the G24 is a great mount. Wilcox has been making that for years and years, and now the G24 comes with the extended bridge here. And what this allows you to do is drop your nods down in front of your face, obviously, so you can use them. There's a plunger button on the side back here. You can pull this up and you can stow them in the upright position out of your eye line when you're not needing them or not using them. Additionally, with this, you can use the adjuster here to slide these further out. So if you're wearing some kind of goggle or mask, or you wear prescription, eyewear, you can do that. Or if you need them closer to your face, you can do that as well. Now, this is not a real G24. I'm not going to get into what this is, but it's not a real one, but it does follow the same form factor. This style of mount has been very popular for the last several years, and I do recommend getting something name brand that's going to fit with your helmet and work well for you. You don't want to cheap out on your retention. So while your helmet does come with these little bungees that will hook into those jump rings we talked about, you want to make sure you have a quality mount on your helmet. That's why most good helmets like the Team Wendy bump, like the Galvion Cayman, like the OpsCore, they all come with a Wilcox shroud on the front of the helmet. If it's not a real Wilcox, the Unity shrouds are also very good. Those come on helmets like the PGDs and stuff. But if it's not one of those two, I would ask a lot of questions, because if that fails, this is all coming off your head and you're losing your multi-$1,000 investment. It's gonna be a really bad time. Additionally, always clip in with your retention system. If you don't use the onboard retention like these bungees, have an aftermarket one. There's tons out there. I know the Rat from Unobtainium Gear is one that I really like. I know Kinetic Consulting, I think, is the company. They make the Nerd, which is another one where it just bungees around the bridge of your night vision and then Velcros up to the top of your helmet. But having a good quality mount with quality retention is, in my opinion, absolutely paramount. Luckily, most helmets come with this stuff. I think there's only a couple out there where you have to buy your own mount and attach it, or your own shroud, I should say. All of them will require you to buy your own mount. So that's an added expense and something you guys just need to be aware of. I know Nocturne Industries, I think it's the Alpha mount is their new one. Cadex is a company that's out there, the Wilcox G24. There's a lot of good options out there. Or if you're running a PVS 14, you want to go USGI, you can get one of the Rhino mounts, the Neurotos Rhino mounts, and a USGI J-arm, which are, I think you can get that set up for like $100. So if you're balling on a budget, a Rhino mount with a USGI J-arm and your PVS 14, you'll be real good to go. Now, once you get the mount sorted out, the next thing that we want to look at is the back side of the helmet, which is a counterweight. Now, this is a Ferro battery pack pouch. I don't have a battery pack on here. This is a 3D printed case that holds batteries. So I have 4 CR123s in here and 2 AA's. And the weight of those batteries help to balance out this system. So you have the forward weight of the night vision and the backward weight of the counterweight pouch, and it balances it out. Do you need a counterweight pouch? I say yes. Some people will tell you no because they don't want more weight and strain on their neck and their spinal cord. And certainly I get that. I understand it. It kind of just depends on your own personal preference. You can get some cheaper ones online from like Amazon and stuff. It is just a nylon pouch with weight in it. So if you're not wanting to commit to some of the really expensive options out there that are $100 plus, I certainly get that. But I would definitely always recommend to folks that you invest in a counterweight on the back. Now this helps keep mine balanced. I don't run a battery pack because the MH1s that I'm running don't have a port for a battery cable. If you did buy something with a battery pack and you wanted to run that, I know there's some options like the Lloyd Innovations 21s. So same company that makes the MH1. The 21s are their ultra lightweight housing, and those only run off a battery pack. So in that instance, you would get something like this. You would have your battery pack mounted here to the back of the helmet. Most of them have Velcro, and you can attach it straight to the helmet via Velcro, but I always advocate for a secondary retention system. So it doesn't have to be this Ferro product here. Not paid, not sponsored, but I love this and I like the aesthetic of it. I always would recommend you either strap it in or do some kind of secondary retention on that. Your battery pack would go back here, and you would run your power cable up the helmet and into the plug on your night vision. Again, you don't have to do that. I would always just recommend some kind of a counterweight back here. At that point, truly your night vision is good to go. The extra stuff is where people get caught up and they insist that they need it without understanding if they need it and how they can accomplish those things. So the easy one, I'll just say, is the strobe here. As somebody who's been to a couple different night vision training events and does occasionally train under night vision, you should get some kind of a strobe, but don't spend huge money on it because honestly, if it's just you and your friends and you guys are all very aware, the strobe just gets really annoying and it'll gate people's tubes or auto gate them. And what that just means is that when bright flashes of light come into this, the tubes will protect themselves by dimming everything down. And then as soon as the light is done, they'll come back up. So it gets really annoying, but having a strobe, some ranges require it. And all this one does, this is an airsoft replica. You just flip it on here and you can have it on constant on, or if you want to be really annoying, you flip it all the way over and then you get this really cool strobe that's very annoying. It does have a switch in the front, so you could flip it to IR mode and get that same constant or strobe functionality. Just depends what you want. Again, this is an airsoft replica. Not advocating for that necessarily. I'm just saying that if you're looking for places to save money, a strobe is a place to save money. You can always just take a chem light, or a glow stick and shove that on your kit somewhere, and that's going to glow in the IR spectrum just as well as one of these strobes would. But real devices like this cost upwards of $200. So if you're looking for places to save money, that's where I would start. Additionally, the helmet cover. So this is from Defense Mechanisms, and I like running a helmet cover because I like having additional Velcro for identifiers and, cool guy patches for extra points. You don't need a cover though. The helmets do typically come with some Velcro fields. It just, if your department or agency mandates that you run a certain color or just that you run the cover itself, you can go pick them up. I would spend real money on this. Don't go to Amazon. Those really don't end up fitting very well, and they don't last very long. The other reason is if you're buying your helmet secondhand perhaps, and it's black and you want to match the rest of your kit, or some kind of reasonable camo pattern, then pick up a helmet cover. But other than that, they don't really offer anything that you don't already have with the helmet. This one was about, I think, 70 bucks. So I really, really like it. But if you're looking to additionally save more money, there's 70 bucks you don't have to spend. And lastly here, you guys can see this is the Ear Pro and comms setup. These are Peltor 5s from 3M or Comtac, or it's 3M owns them, whatever. These are extremely expensive. Ear Pro that is designed to be used in rugged environments, you're going to pay for, you guys. If you're not running comms with your buddies, you don't need this. I'll say it again, you don't need it. The mounts here are about 50 bucks, but the Ear Pro themselves usually run somewhere around $800 plus. If you're getting even the newer stuff like the Castle comms from OpsCore or the Comtac 8s, those are well over $1,000. And for something that you really just need the hearing protection on, you can get cheaper options like the Walker's Razors or the Howard Lights, even some of the Sorden options out there that run about half as much, around $300. You can get those. And if you really want to save some money, you can not get the mounting solution here, and you can actually, you'll have to mess with the padding on the inside of the helmet, but you can actually run your headband and then you leave your Ear Pro on and just sit the helmet on top of that. The comm component of this is always an interesting one, and it's why I tell people not to invest in radios and comms until they have a reason to, i.e., do you have friends and buddies that you're going to realistically be communicating with over radios? If that's true and you do have a group of people you're going to do that with and you're going to train on it, then okay, have the discussion with yourself. Do I need to, spend the money on this kind of ear protection? Now, the hearing protection is fantastic, but again, there are cheaper options out there to provide that kind of, that level of hearing protection. You can even get cheaper versions without the boom mic and whatnot, but for whatever reason, people who never end up using it insist they have to have it, and they spend $800 or $1,000 on the comms, and they could get the non-con versions for like 400 bucks, or like I said, you get some Sordens or some neckband Ear Pro for even less than that. So do you need it? Not always, but if you want it, again, rock on, kings. You deserve nice stuff, so go for it. When you're setting this up, you'll just have to make sure you look for the right kind of mounts. The rails may be different. So the Galvion came in here, and the OpsCore options on the market use this arc rail design. So you have to make sure you get arc rail attachments. If you're using something like the Team Wendy bump, you can see here, this has a different rail solution, and these are the same mounts from 3M for the Peltors. However, they just clip into the accessory rail in a different fashion. So something you'll need to be aware of when you're out purchasing this, don't buy ARC accessories if you have a Team Wendy helmet. Now, the confusing part being that Team Wendy is now moving over to the arc rail system on their new series of ballistic helmets, whether that's the Epic or their Rifle Tech, which is their rifle rated helmet. They're finally getting on board with the arc rail system. So kind of confusing, but be aware which one you need before you purchase. So all said and done, that's kind of what we're looking at, just setting this up. Once you do get everything set up, it is imperative that you take the time to understand how to use this. So with your mount, understand, hey, this plunger on the side here is how I actuate my mount. The little screw on the side helps me adjust the angle up and down. The pinch right here is how I adjust the slider. Learn your gear and learn your kit. Don't be the guy that shows up to the range that doesn't know how to focus the optics on their night vision, right? That doesn't know how to work the objective lenses. Don't be the guy that doesn't know how to put it on, take it off, do any of that stuff. Learn how to use your gear. There's plenty of resources and videos out there that'll explain this stuff to you. I mean, it's really pretty intuitive, and a lot of these companies design it to do so. Videos on the mounts, right? So you have this little lever up front. If you loosen that, now you can adjust how high or how low that mount is on your helmet. Some of you guys will run it all the way down. Some people will run it higher, okay? It just depends on where your eyes are on your face and your helmet sizing and all that good stuff, but learn how that works. It's imperative you understand how all of your gear works. Also, make sure you understand your padding and retention system. A lot of these are adjustable in different ways, right? Some of them require that you get a screwdriver and pull some screws to adjust the sizing of the retention system. The nice thing about the Cayman here is this stuff clips in and clips out at the front and the back. And you can add or remove a nape pad if it's included. And make sure your padding is correct, right? This one came with a shim kit to help make the padding fit and feel a little bit tighter on my head, which I really, really liked. But the biggest problem people have with this is hot spots due to poor padding setup, poor use of the retention system and the chin strap, by the way, and then not having a counterweight. So putting that stress and strain on your head, on your neck and everything will lead to migraine headaches, and then you'll hate your night vision that you just spent thousands of dollars on. So without getting too far into any one piece of this, you guys, that's kind of what we're talking about with getting set up with night vision. Again, just took a friend out to the range 2 weekends ago to give him his very first night vision shooting experience. It was awesome. He loved it. Just had another friend come to me ordering a very similar setup to this, for help setting it up and understanding how all these parts, pieces, and components go together and how they work. So hopefully this is helpful and insightful for you guys. There's a lot to this if you don't know what you're getting into. And if you don't know what you're getting into, the question I would ask is, why am I getting into it? Do I need it? Is it just something that I want? Is it something that I need? Am I ready for it? All fantastic questions, you guys. If you have questions or comments, as always, leave them in the comment section. Love to hear from you guys. And reach out to the team over at Custom Night Vision. They're a huge supporter of mine and a huge supporter of the night vision community, doing fantastic work out there. So hope you guys enjoyed this. Like I said, if you have questions, comments, maybe you like me, maybe you think I need to stop eating carbs, leave it down there in the comments section. Make sure you smash the subscribe and the notification icon because we're dropping these all the time. Thank you guys so much, and we'll catch you on the next one.